Right.
Okay, so my point is also that coin is not worth going to happen. Okay, so you've done your bit checking on legislation. Yeah, but do you want to provide them to this man here?
No, but you want me to fill out a legal document.
Yeah.
Welcome to Breakout, where misconduct is exposed, rights are defended, and accountability is never optional.
This episode follows Auditor Brett Chamberlain at a Tesco gas station, where staff call the police because they think he's trying to leave without paying for his fuel. In reality, Brett is attempting to use a legal 100-pound Royal Mint coin, which stores are legally required to accept. When a police sergeant arrives, Brett explains the law on legal tender. However, the sergeant sides with Tesco and arrests Brett, even though he's done nothing wrong. Brett later sues, wins a substantial amount of money, and the sergeant faces legal consequences for making the wrongful arrest.
What's going to happen? Okay, so you've done your bit checking on legislation. I've just checked on my legislation. As I said to you, the shop does not have to accept it just because it is legal tender. You said it's legal tender. You are correct. However, it is a commemorative coin. On the internet, they're worth about 20 quid.
Well,
right, so here is what is going to happen. Either you are going to pay for your fuel correctly, or you are going to fill out their civil recovery form so that you can arrange to make payment at a later date, or I'm going to arrest you for bilking.
What's bilking?
Bilking, making off without payment. You've got to the point where payment is due. You're now refusing to make payment. Therefore, I will treat it as a criminal offence. So how would you wish to proceed at this point?
Well, I have got means to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not going to fill out a civil recovery form as you put it.
Right, so what's the means that
What was the option two?
So option one is either you pay, option two is you fill out the form, option three is that you get arrested.
Well, pay.
No, you pay with legal tender that they will accept.
That is legal tender.
No, they don't have,
But if this is a £50 note and he said, oh, look, we don't accept £50 notes because there's lots of forgeries.
Exactly.
Would you be doing exactly the same thing now?
Yes. So if you go into a corner shop and try and pay for a penny chew with a £50 note, they are perfectly within their rights to refuse that sale.
The sergeant's accusation that Brett was attempting to steal doesn't hold up under the Theft Act of 1978, which states that you can only be guilty of leaving without paying if you actually leave the property with the intent to avoid paying. But Brett was still sitting in his car trying to pay. When Brett offers his 100B Royal Mint coin, the sergeant makes things worse by saying it depends on what the store will accept. This is wrong because once you've pumped gas, a debt is created, and paying with legal tender legally clears that debt, regardless of what the cashier thinks. The sergeant, by siding with Tesco, shows a lack of understanding about legal tender.
It's different because...
No, it's not different.
No, it is.
You have offered a form of payment that they will not accept. The principle is exactly the same.
Well, if you arrest me, it'll be a wrongful arrest.
Yeah? It's not. It's a lawful arrest because I've explained the situation and I've explained that I believe you're doing this for
Are you a
dishonest
sergeant
reason.
or an officer?
I am a sergeant.
Right.
Okay, so my point is also that coin is not worth the face value of it. It's not legal tender in such a way that this shop has to accept it as being valued at £100.
Okay, so it has... Hang on.
Short of the mark.
No, I'm not. So it is got a face value of £100, so it is worth £100.
It's not.
Well, you say that, but the Bank of England, the House of Commons, the state, all the institutions that came before you say it is, right? But you say it isn't, right? Now you say it's only worth whatever you say it was. Interestingly, I don't know if you've looked at the price of silver, but that's probably worth about £48 in silver. Hang on, I haven't finished yet. So that's £48 in silver.
Yeah.
Whereas, how much is a £20 note or a £50 note worth in plastic? What, a penny or two?
The sergeant completely loses credibility when Brett correctly points out that the coin is worth 100 pence, but the sergeant denies it, calling it merely a commemorative coin that doesn't count. This is factually incorrect because any coin issued by the Royal Mint with a face value printed on it is legal tender by law, whether it's a regular coin or a special commemorative one. Its legal status comes from the law itself, not from the personal opinions of a cashier or police officer. The sergeant's denial of the coin's value shows his ignorance of currency law.
You ought to check to make sure it's not an unlawful arrest.
Another unit, please. This chap's about to be arrested.
Would it be unlawful arrest?
Well, it's not a wrongful arrest.
It would be a wrongful arrest. Well, how can you arrest somebody for refusing to pay when they're offering to pay with a coin of the realm?
Because you're not offering to pay with payment that they can accept or will accept or have to accept. No.
Now, interestingly, you said that you've done some research on this and I've done this before.
Yeah.
Well, what was the outcome of it last time?
It was no further action.
Why was that then?
I don't know.
Well, how come you've got a record of that?
I'm about to let you drive off from here.
Well, how come you got a record that I did it last time, but you haven't got a record of the outcome?
Why? Because I haven't got time to look at that right now.
But you have got time to arrest me and deal with all the paperwork that'll be involved in that.
Yep.
So that's just abusing your power, I think, because what you're trying to do is
you're power proportionally. These people here are trying to run a business, and you are making life extremely difficult by being obstructive in how you're going to pay.
No, I'm not.
The sergeant admits he's dealt with the same situation before, but can't recall how it turned out, which shows that he's not learning from his past mistakes. Instead of taking the opportunity to look up the law or learn from previous cases, he refuses, claiming he doesn't have time for that. Yet he does have time to arrest Brett and handle all the paperwork associated with it. This isn't proper policing, it's driven by ego. Arrests should be the last resort, only made when the facts are clear. And in this case, the facts were clear. Brett was still at the gas station, trying to pay with valid legal tender.
I'm only here to enforce the law, I'm not here to decide. I just suspect that an offence has taken place, okay? So I'm not convicting you, and you're refusing, to cooperate with me any further. You're refusing to resolve this situation by giving these people your details. So therefore,
No, I don't, because what you're trying to encourage me to do is not to give them my details, but to fill out a legally binding form. You're actually encouraging me to fill out a legally binding form, right? That would be detrimental to me.
Why? Because you have to pay for your fuel just like everybody else in this petrol station?
No, because you're forcing me not to use cash. It's exactly the same as you...
No, I'm forcing you to provide the legal tender that this business is willing to accept.
But it's not for them to pick and choose.
It is, absolutely.
No, it's not.
If they will only accept payment in Pokemon cards, that is entirely up to them.
Yeah, but they need to state that on the pump, right, when I take the fuel. They need to say payment only in Pokemon. I'm not trying to... What do you think I'm trying to achieve then out of this?
So why are you not willing to offer any other sort of payment? Do you have bank cards on you?
Maybe it's a matter of principle. This is a coin of the realm. You shouldn't be threatening to arrest me because of their preference as to what type of note or coin they accept. That's ridiculous.
The sergeant's suggestion that Brett was trying to deceive someone is absurd. A real trick would be sneaking away without paying, not standing openly and offering legal money directly to the cashier. The accusation falls apart when you consider the facts. Brett never left the gas station, never tried to hide anything, and clearly offered a 100-pound coin from the Royal Mint. When the sergeant asks why Brett doesn't just pay a different way, Brett's response is spot on. It's about standing up for what's right. He shouldn't have to change his payment method simply because the store or police don't like it. The law recognizes that coin as real money, and if stores or police refuse to accept it, they're not following the law, they're disregarding it.
It's not your job, is it, to state what type of coin that Tesco accepts or not?
It's my job to make sure that you don't go past the point of payment without making
Well,
payment.
I haven't driven off, have I? I've got every intention of paying with this coin.
No.
If I had no intention, if I was trying to do something dishonest, I'd driven off, wouldn't I? But the fact is, I've waited here for you to come and I've discussed it with you. I've tried to explain it, being very civil, don't be rude, have I? In any way, I've got no disrespect for the police whatsoever.
No.
Might go downhill a bit if you arrest me unlawfully.
Okay.
I just think, please, just check that it's a lawful arrest, but I don't think it is.
I believe it is.
And the whole point of cash and legal tender is that you cannot be successfully prosecuted for non-payment if you've offered legal tender. So if I had Scottish notes, right, now they're not legal tender in the UK, they're not legal tender full stop, but Tesco's actually accept those.
Brett was right when he explained that you can't be charged with not paying if you've already offered legal tender. The entire point of legal tender is that once it's offered, the debt is legally paid, no matter what the store wants. The crime of leaving without paying applies only when someone leaves and attempts to avoid paying. Brett's comparison to Scottish banknotes was a great example. Technically, those are not legal tender in England, yet stores all over the country accept them without issue. So how can Tesco happily take Scottish notes but refuse the £100 Royal Mint coin, which is, in fact, legal tender? This shows how misguided the sergeant's argument was. The real issue wasn't how Brett tried to pay, it was that the store was being inconsistent, and the police were backing them up with a poor decision.
There was an invitation to take the fuel, and I've taken the fuel, and now I've got a debt, and I'm offering to pay the debt in legal tender. Now in the store, it's different, because I haven't taken the food, have I? In fact, if I'd have eaten the food, I'd be obligated to pay for it, and then it'd be the same scenario, just the same as if you went into a restaurant and had a meal, you know, and then you have to pay afterwards, and you offered to pay in that, right, they can't lawfully have you prosecuted for failure to pay if you've offered a reasonable means of payment and they've refused to accept it.
Yeah, but you've refused to identify yourself to this person.
Well, I don't need to, do I?
I'm now starting to view your actions as being dishonest.
How have I been dishonest?
I suspect an offence is going to
How have I been dishonest?
Because you're refusing to give your information to this gentleman, so that...
But he's not entitled to my information, is he?
He is.
Okay, if I told you what my...
because you have a debt to settle up with him.
This is...
So to go to the restaurant scenario, if you ate your meal and then said, oh, I've forgotten my wallet, I've got no means of paying.
Oh, no means of paying.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So at that point you're not being dishonest. At the point that you refuse to identify yourself, or you put Mickey Mouse care of Disney World on a piece of paper and say, here's my details, you're then becoming dishonest.
What about if, like, we went to the restaurant, we had a meal, right, and then I pulled out a £50 note and they said, look, we don't accept £50 notes. Yeah. They can't make a decision about refusing to accept the £50 notes when you owe them money. They can only refuse to, they can only refuse to go through with the transaction in the first place. It's only because you've had the goods and you owe a debt that they can't refuse to accept.
Brett's comparison to a restaurant is brilliant because it highlights the issue with simple logic. Once you've received the goods or service, a business can't arbitrarily decide which legal payments it will accept. They can refuse a £50 note before serving you, but not after you've already received the goods. The same rule applies at the gas station. The fuel had already been pumped into Brett's car, and he offered legal tender to pay for it. That should have settled the debt, and that should have been the end of it. The sergeant's failure to understand this was more than just a small mistake. It was a total breakdown of basic legal knowledge. Legal tender is defined by law, and once it's offered, the debt is paid. By supporting Tesco's refusal instead of following the law, the sergeant turned what wasn't even a real problem into a fabricated criminal case that should never have happened.
Right, so these coins are made by the Royal Mint.
Yep, and they are legal tender.
And they are legal tender. Yeah. So how can I be refusing to pay and being dishonest in any way when I'm offering to pay with a coin of the realm, a legal tender coin?
Because you've offered a form of payment that they are unable or unwilling to accept. Therefore, as I said, the onus is on you to find alternative means. You've failed to do that, and you are now proposing to leave here without actually giving any means of identification so they can arrange at a later date to make payment with you.
Okay.
So therefore, because of that, I suspect that you are about to commit an offence of making off without payment.
See, now I reckon that if you've offered to pay, and I've offered to pay lots of times, got it on video, and right, and they refuse to accept the payment, I can't see how that I've committed a crime, even if I don't pay.
To provide an alternative means of payment or come to an alternative agreement.
So what you're suggesting is that you're going to arrest me based on the opinion of a Tesco staff member, whereas another member of staff might have.
Based on my suspicion.
Suspicion.
I'm sure with the amount of time this gentleman has spent here, and the fact that other colleagues are aware of the fact that we have been here for half an hour?
Nah, 16 minutes.
I'm sure if he were able to take that coin, he would have done it by now, because he's got plenty of other things to do. You are costing them money by the fact that your car's sat here taking out these two lanes.
Well, I've offered to move it, but he said no.
If they could...
I offered to move it, but he said no.
But if they were willing to take this at any point, they would have done that.
Now, don't you think, Ben, right, that the country's biggest retailer would have a simple, basic understanding of coins of the realm and the legal tender situation and what they can do and what they can't do.
Well, they clearly do by the fact that they are not obliged to take it just because it's legal tender.
Because he said so. But how do you know he's right? And how do you know that what he's saying is the opinion of Tesco's as a company as a whole?
It's not that he's right, it's that the Bank of England is right, and it's the Bank of England that states that the shopkeepers are not legally obliged to accept any royal tender.
Right, okay, I understand where you're coming from with that, but that's referring to buying something from a store, not for paying a debt.
Okay, it's still the same,
No, it's not.
same situation.
No,
Okay,
it's not.
that's fine.
It's actually on the Bank of England website what legal tender is.
Yeah, it is. As I said, I have no argument with you about that at all.
The sergeant tries to sound knowledgeable by quoting the Bank of England, which says that shopkeepers don't have to accept legal tender. Technically, that's true because retailers can choose what payment methods they accept, but what the sergeant fails to recognize is the timing and situation. This rule only applies before goods or services are provided. Once goods are delivered, a debt is created, and legal tender must be accepted to settle that debt, whether the store wants to accept it or not. Brett pointed out this crucial difference. Paying for gas isn't the same as buying something off a shelf where the store can refuse payment before the goods are given. In this case, the transaction had moved beyond the point where the store gets to choose. The only thing that matters at that point is whether the customer offers real legal tender to settle what they owe, and Brett did exactly that.
Okay, so I'm arresting you on suspicion of making off without payment. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something on which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Do you understand?
Yep.
Okay, so my intention at this time is to take you to Exeter Police Station where you'll be put into custody. The reason for that is for the prompt and effective investigation of the offence and to confirm your identity and your name and address.
Well, it'll be unlawful arrest, won't it?
No, not at all.
Right, where do you want me to park
I
my
have
car
the
then?
suspicion that you're about to commit an offence.
Well, what offence am I committing?
I've told you, I think you're about to make off without payment, and if I don't arrest you, then you will make off without payment. So there's my grounds.
Well, I'm offering
Okay,
to make
can you
payment.
come out of the car, please?
Yeah,
sir?
stop, no.
Okay.
There's no use to use violence, is there?
No,
Hang
well,
on,
step out of the car,
let me
please.
just get my affairs together, all right?
Okay. Do you want to provide your details, or are you going to go to custody?
Well, I'll my details to you.
Yeah, but do you want to provide them to this man here?
No, but you want me to fill out a legal document.
Yeah.
No, I'm not filling out a legal
Okay,
document.
out of the car then, please, sir.
The sergeant's reason for arresting Brett is absurd. He openly admits that Brett hasn't actually committed any crime, but he arrests him anyway because he thinks Brett might commit one in the future. This isn't how the law works. The situation only gets worse when we see the aftermath. Brett is taken to jail, questioned, and treated like a criminal for what started as a payment dispute initiated by Tesco. But instead of giving in to the bullying, Brett fought back and sued them, ultimately winning a £5,000 settlement. This shows how badly the police mishandled the situation. You don't pay out that much money unless you know you were completely wrong. This entire scenario demonstrates how problematic policing becomes when officers ignore the law. The sergeant based his actions on nothing but guesses and fabricated criminal intentions, and his refusal to accept the £100 coin as legal tender made things even worse. Even though Tesco broke the law, Brett was the one arrested, which is completely backwards. The sergeant's arrogance, combined with his ignorance, led to a completely unjust situation. The £5,000 settlement serves as the strongest proof that when police officers go too far, the law will punish them. And in this case, Brett wasn't just right, he was proven right in the most powerful way possible.